Welcome everyone. Today we are going to learn about salt reabsorption in the kidney by sodium potassium chlorine Symporter. The main function of the kidney is to filter waste product from the blood plasma like urea, but it also maintains proper amount of body fluid and correct amount of iron concentration in the blood plasma to maintain the blood pressure. So reabsorption is very important. So kidney contains nephrons, and in the nephrons there is a structure called loop of Henle. And in the loop of Henle there is thick ascending limb. I will show the structure. So as you can see, this is the structure of nephron and this is loop of Henle. This U shape is the loop of Henle and here is the thick ascending limb. In the thick ascending limb there is epithelial cells that actually helps in the reabsorption of the sodium chloride. Now this epithelial cells is called polarized cells because it has separate domain. One domain is called apical domain and another is called basolateral domain. The apical domain actually faces the lumen of the kidney tubule or nephron where ultrafiltrate is present. Now what is ultrafiltrate? It is actually the precursor of urine. So these apical portions actually face the lumen, and the basolateral domain it contains connective tissue that face the blood. So it is exchangeable with blood. Now in the basolateral domain and the apical domain, different transporters actually work together. So there is an orchestration of different transporters. By this way, these cells actually reabsorb sodium chloride. This is the sodium and potassium pump. Okay, so this pump is actually plays an important role here. What happens basically, sodium actually comes out of the cells. 3 sodium come out of the cell in this space and 2 potassium actually enter. 2 potassium ions enter. This pump actually generates an electrochemical gradient of sodium in the cells. As you can see, as sodiums are actually coming out of the cells, the concentration of sodium is actually low inside the cell. Okay, remember this. The concentration of sodium is low inside the cells. Now potassium can actually move out of the cells through potassium channels. So in the basolateral portions there is abundant amount of sodium potassium pump, there is potassium channel, and this is actually the chlorine channels. We call this chlorine channel CLCK, or we call it Bartter. Why it is called Bartter? Because here one auxiliary beta units actually present called Bartter. So suppose this is the Bartter subunit, so that's why it is called CLCK or Bartter. This is chlorine channels. Now I will actually mention the first, that is the sodium, potassium and chlorine Symporter. So what happens, because inside the sodium concentration is low, in the ultrafiltrate the sodium concentration is high. Remember this, in the ultrafiltrate sodium concentration is high. So by this Symporter, sodium actually comes inside of the cells. One sodium comes, and this movement of sodium is actually powered by the concentration electrochemical gradient generated by the sodium potassium pump. Because inside is low concentration, outside is high, so sodium will actually move, and these sodiums actually come out of the cells through this potassium pump. Okay, it links. Now along with the sodium, potassium and chlorine actually moves because it is Symporter. So potassium ions moves inside one potassium ions, and that potassium actually leaves the cell. This is another potassium channel. So potassium channel is present in both the apical and basolateral positions of these cells, epithelial cells, and there is chlorine ions actually enter also. So I'm writing here chlorine ions. 2 chlorine ions actually enter, because it is Symporter, so all ions enter. Now the chlorine ions actually move these cells or out of the cells by this chlorine channels. So basically sodium and chlorines are actually come out of the cells. So NaCls actually go into the blood or blood plasma. So reabsorption of sodium chloride occurs by this sodium potassium chlorine channel. But remember, not only this Symporter is actually important, but all these channels are actually, or pumps is actually important to reabsorb the sodium chloride. Now if there is any mutation occurs in these chlorine channels or Bartter subunit, one syndrome is actually created called Bartter syndrome. Remember this, Bartter syndrome. In this syndrome, actually chlorine actually are not reabsorbed properly. So chlorine ions will not move through this chlorine channel. So chlorine ions starts to increase here. So less amount of chlorine will move or actually absorb. So salt wasting occurs. Okay. Now I will mention one drug in this video that is called furosemide. Furosemide. Now this drug is actually used to treat congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure. Now why this drug is actually used? Because this furosemide actually inhibit this sodium, potassium and chlorine Symporter present in the thick ascending limb. So why this drug furosemide is actually used in this congestive heart failure? So it actually reacts in the kidney cells or epithelial cells, but it actually relieve the symptom of congestive heart failure. Basically what happens during this congestive heart failure, weak heart leads to accumulations of fluids in the body, like in the lungs, so it causes shortness of breath, and in the body, like swelling of ankles. Now when we actually inhibit this Symporter, what will happen? The sodium and chloride, these salts will not be reabsorbed, so reduction of sodium chloride occur. As reduction of sodium chloride occurs, so sodium chloride ions will increase in the ultrafiltrate or precursor of the urine. And remember this, when the concentration of sodium chloride increases in the ultrafiltrate, kidney generates or produce larger amount of urine. Remember this. So when concentration of sodium and chloride is high in the ultrafiltrate, it produces larger amount of urine, or we call it output of urine is increases. Hope this video will help you. If you have any doubt about this topic, you can write me in the comment section. Thank you for watching and always keep learning.